Good morning, and welcome to another edition of Texans Unfiltered, a Houston football podcast for your Houston Texans. I am YoungAriGold. I am here again for my morning stream. We are definitely doing this on a consistent basis. I appreciate everybody that tunes in. Thank you guys. I hope you guys had a nice long weekend. Lots of interesting things that happened. Nice wild card weekend. Jaguars upsets the Chargers after being 27-0. I want to talk a little bit about the difference between the rebuilds that the Giants are in and the Jags are in, and which one, is most applicable to how the Texans could potentially move forward, as they're two different situations. So, with that being said, though, I want to hop straight into the news about Sean Payton interviewing with the Houston Texans yesterday. The interview happened. It was announced last night around 7:30 or 8 that Sean Payton has interviewed with the Houston Texans for their current opening at head coach. I've been very vocal about not really being on the Sean Payton train. It's not really anything against Sean Payton to an extent. I do think he's a good coach. I don't know if he's as great of a coach as people make him out to be. But a lot of it also has to do with like the two big components for big reasons why I'm not for the Sean Payton hire is one, the draft capital that you have to give up to get him. I'm just not a fan of that. And then to pair that with the fact that he's also 56 years old. Last year when he took the Fox job, he was discussing, that now is not the right time and that he has other passions in life. And all of a sudden in a year that's changed. I'm just not a big proponent of believing that your path or your journey in life is just flip like that. And whatever his reasoning may be, I do agree with every other sentiment that people have brought up and every other point that people have brought up in the sense that does Sean Payton bring instant credibility? Yes. Is there a good chance that Sean Payton can turn this around a lot quicker? Yes. Is there long-term stability, though? Is there going to be someone who's invested in the city, invested in the organization, is going to be here for the next 10 years, let's say? And maybe 10 years is long, 8 years, 7 years, whatever it may be. That's where I question Sean Payton and where he's how long he's going to be here and what his motives are. He's going to be a highly sought after coach, as we're seeing already. You're going to have to open up the wallet to pay him, which doesn't matter to Texans fans, and I totally get it. If you're paying Sean Payton $20 million a year, it's not like it's against the cap. So what does it really matter? And I totally understand that. But yesterday he was on Colin Cowherd, and he was asked by Colin about the Texans job, and is that something that he would consider? And before Colin could even finish saying consider, Sean Payton said, absolutely. Absolutely. I do know ownership. I do know Nick Caserio a little bit. They have a ton of draft capital and cap space. He says that it's definitely a job that is something that he would be interested in. So honestly, that was a great thing from a publicity perspective. For the last 3 years, the Texans have been shit on completely. To be able to see that, somebody with Sean Payton's stature can give a pretty good endorsement of the Houston Texans and where they're at, given the fact that they fired back-to-back, first-year head coaches in back-to-back seasons, and then, with the Jack Easterby stuff, the Deshaun Watson stuff, the way Bill O'Brien left everything, to come in and say that absolutely he would take that job or consider that job, I think was a great thing for Texans fans and the city of Houston, but really it was a great thing for Nick Caserio, Cal McNair, and Hannah McNair. To have somebody come out and say that after what's been going on over the last 2 years it's a really big deal, and I'm glad that something like that happened. It explains everything that we've all kind of been saying, is that it is a desirable job. There's not very many jobs that you are going to take in the NFL that have the draft capital, have the cap space, and have the ability to do quite a quick turnaround given the draft capital and cap space. So Sean Payton saying that was great. And then Colin Cowherd asked him about compensation. And it was actually kind of funny because when he asked about compensation, Sean was under the impression that he was asking about how much he's going to get paid. per year, like contract. And what Colin really meant was compensation from a draft perspective. What would a team have to give up to have the rights to hire Sean Payton? And Sean Payton was very transparent. He said a mid to late first round pick is what Mickey Loomis and the Saints are going to want. And then instantly, I actually had to drive to Hearn, Texas yesterday to pick up a bumper for a car. And so I was listening to Clinton Ron. I think his name's Ron. And they were talking about, boom, the 12th pick automatically. Give it up for him. What's up, Giovanni? What's up, Day Texans? Give up the 12th pick overall, and let's bring Sean Payton in here. I think coaching matters. I think coaching's probably just as important as having your franchise quarterback in place. So I can understand the reasoning behind giving up the 12th pick. If Sean Payton comes, I would assume that would mean, based on his comments, that Bryce Young is out of the picture at 2, right? He talked about prototyping, and especially prototyping in the first 15 picks in the first round. I would assume that Bryce Young automatically comes off of the options of quarterback to draft with Sean Payton as your head coach. So if that's the case, if I was to propose anything, and maybe this is a stretch, but this is, in my mind, where I would go if I was Nick Caserio, and this would be where I probably started. Let me see real quick what the draft order is, because I totally forgot to check that earlier. So, yes. Okay. So my thought would be, instead of giving up 12, what if the Texans were to, oh, nope, doesn't work. Never mind. I guess the Saints don't have a first round pick this year. I was going to say we could swap. We could swap the whatever pick they had in the first round with the second pick, but it doesn't look like they have a pick, which is strange. From New Orleans, Philadelphia Eagles. Okay. Well, never mind then. That takes everything off the table. I wouldn't give up 12 this year. I would maybe give up the Browns pick next year. But that's probably about it. I'm trying to add talent to this team immediately. I need talent this year. I need the turnaround to start. I need to be able to invest and see the player development. We have other players that are needing it as well, right? We need to surround the rest of the team with talent so that players like Jalen Petrie can continue to take steps in their development. Kenyon Green can take a big step in his development. Damian Pierce, Derek Stingley, things of that nature. I can't wrap my mind around giving up 12. I can give up next year's Browns pick, but I can't give up 12 this year. I can't do it. The 34th pick, I think, or 33rd, I think, is what ends up being this year. I would give that pick up and be fine with it, but I'm definitely not giving up 12. I'm not for a coach that has kind of teetered the line of, I kind of want to coach, I don't want to coach, I kind of want to coach, I don't want to coach. Not giving up the compensation needed to potentially have somebody that's not here long term. So, and I agree, Sean Payton bailed after Breeze retired, after everything was gutted on the roster, all the draft picks and cap space was spent. I agree. And not only that, like, he's just older. He's 56. He's very much, he has an ego. He doesn't show it very often on Fox, but like, he doesn't remind me of a guy that's he reminds me of just a nicer Bill O'Brien. He's going to have his way. He's not going to have a lot of people challenge him, and he's just going to go about his path. I don't really want that moving forward. I want a young coach that comes in that isn't surrounded by yes men, challenges their thoughts, is a little innovative in the way he does things on an offensive perspective and a defensive perspective, is forever evolving, and isn't looking to just take what he's done in the past and implement it here and hope that works. So that's probably one of the bigger reasons. So, yeah, I would not give up 12. I wouldn't give up 2. I would give up either the 33rd pick, or I would give up, I guess if I had to, and Nick's set on Sean Payton. I don't think he is, but if he is set on Sean Payton, I would give up next year's Browns pick for Sean Payton. This week, D'Amico Ryan's interviews, I think either Thursday or Friday. Thomas Brown this week. the defensive coordinator for the Broncos this week. And there's somebody else. I totally forgot who, though. I don't know. There's somebody else that's coming in this week. So a busy week for Nick Caserio, Cal McNair, and Hannah McNair. Nice to see that they're really taking this and they're moving as fast as they can. They're really trying to get ahead of this. Ben Johnson interviewed Friday. Gannon interviewed on Saturday. We're definitely, I think, probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have an understanding of who it is, who the leading candidate is. I would say right now, probably Jonathan Gannon is the leading candidate. Let's hope Ben Johnson is up there with that, but we'll have to see. Now let's get to wildcard weekend. What a great weekend of football. I didn't watch last night's game because I hate the Cowboys, but it looks like they took care of business. Let's start with the New York Giants. New York Giants have been a bad team. They've also been they're a bad roster too. Not as they're actually, up until the season, they were probably right there with the Texans. They had a quarterback that nobody believed in and kind of showed no promise over the last 3 years. Had moments, but not really big moments. And they fired their coach, Joe Judge, which what a terrible hire that was in the first place. And hired Brian Daboll. And Daboll came in this year and changed the culture, changed the identity, and supported and helped develop Daniel Jones. And on Sunday, what we saw was Daniel Jones is developing into a good quarterback, an above average quarterback. And it's interesting to see how they went about this process. Tons of talent on defense, not tons of talent outside of Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones on offense. Not a ton of wide receivers, no real tight end. They are still in rebuild mode from a roster perspective, but Brian Daboll has shown what you can do with the right coach, with the right scheme, with the right coaches around him. They weren't like the Jags, who, if we were to compare the two, the Jags have had a ton of number one picks and early first round picks, tons of cap space they spend in this offseason. And they were able to grab Trevor Lawrence, who's regarded as the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. So what is that, 2012 or 13, 14, whatever it may be. So they grabbed the number one quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, and then were able to also add a ton of pieces over the last 3 years with being so bad in the draft. Then they went into free agency, added some weapons. Evan Ingram is a hit. That was a huge hit by Trent Baalke, and Christian Kirk looks good. Marvin Jones looks good. They all look as if they did pretty well, to be honest with you. And the comeback from 27-0, you have to have a top tier quarterback to be able to come back in those types of situations. But the rebuilds are totally different. One is very team driven. We're gonna develop the roster. We don't know what we have at quarterback, but we're gonna wait and see. We're gonna try to help develop him. And we're just going to play good, sound, fundamental, disciplined football, all three phases, and continue to evolve this roster. And then the other one is we're going to grab the best quarterback in a long, long time in the draft, and we're going to surround him with pieces. And, we're going to get to this point. It just shows that there's so many different philosophies when building a roster. And it doesn't always have to be you grab a quarterback to speed up this rebuild. You have to have the right quarterback for that to happen. And I don't know if that quarterback is in this draft. I know a lot of people are like Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young is super talented. I think he is a very, very good college quarterback, probably one of the better college quarterbacks. And all the things that people praise about his game are great tangibles and great attributes to have. But the things that I question are those same attributes that he has. People say, his processing. Okay, so his processing in college at Alabama is great. But now that processing has to take another significant step because the windows, everything about the NFL is faster. He's going to have to be able to be a better processor. Arm strength. People say he's got a good arm, an okay arm. Okay, and that works in college. Will that work and translate into the NFL? Because I don't see his arm strength getting better given his size. And so the breakdown on plays. Okay, so when you don't have what's his name in Dallas, Parsons, when you have Micah, if you don't have Micah Parsons chasing you, or Kayvon Thibodeau, or the Bosa brothers, or are you able to still create against that top tier talent on defense? And honestly, I don't know. And I think those are the biggest questions outside of size and frame with Bryce Young. I don't know if there is a quarterback like Trevor. I don't believe there is a quarterback as talented as Trevor Lawrence in this draft. And it makes me think, like, if we look at the Giants and the way that they did things, get the right coach, get the right scheme, get the right assistant coaches, and you could potentially move this rebuild further along a little bit quicker. It may not be the most traditional way. You're not having a quarterback winning you games, but maybe you can find a guy in the second or third that you could be able to do it. Most people feel like Young is going to be fine. That's fine. All of you guys just want a quarterback is really what it boils down to. It doesn't boil down to anything else. You guys are tired of quarterback play. You guys were burnt by Deshaun Watson, and you guys are ready to replace him and have the quarterback of the future. And I'm totally on board with that. I want the same thing. I think the difference is, for me, I don't want to do it because I feel like we need to do it. I don't want to take a quarterback because you feel like you have to take a quarterback. I don't want to take one because we're desperate. I want to take a quarterback because he's the right quarterback for this situation and this coaching staff and this roster, and is able to elevate it and is going to be a great quarterback for us for the next 10 to 15 years. I think a lot of people are just dead set on grabbing a quarterback because they feel like that is that's how it's going. Like, that's how you do it. You do it this way. And you can, but there has to be the right quarterback for you to draft, for you to have the opportunity to actually reach the levels that you're wanting to reach. And I don't think the quarterback in this draft is there. Maybe Anthony Richardson. You're not taking him at 2. He's going to go in the first round no matter what anybody thinks. Anthony Richardson is going to go in the first round because of the 5th-year option. So anybody that says Anthony Richardson, grab him on day 2, you're not going to be able to grab Anthony Richardson at day 2. He's too much of an athletic freak. And that 5th-year option on quarterbacks is extremely important. Somebody will either trade up if he's still there towards the end of the first round, but he's going in the first round. And he has the highest ceiling out of any quarterback in this draft. So maybe Anthony Richardson, but that's going to take some time. And you're going to have to wait. Maybe he starts day 1, but I highly doubt it. I'd rather him sit a year and sit behind a veteran quarterback and start to learn the NFL. But Anthony Richardson, to me, is the guy that you probably want to target. Maybe he's targeted at 12. I don't know, but I don't see Bryce Young at 2 for the Texans, especially now with where things are at and what we're hearing. So that's my thought. So I'd rather go the Giants route, especially with where we're at and what's available in the upcoming draft. There are some veteran quarterbacks, if somebody was interested, that you could grab. That would be a stopgap quarterback. It doesn't put you in quarterback purgatory like everybody says. You don't have to go the Colts way. The Colts decided not to draft a quarterback. They decided to trade for 3 quarterbacks in 3 different seasons. That doesn't mean you're in quarterback purgatory. The Texans traded up from 20 to 12 to grab Deshaun. Like, there's so many different scenarios. I'm so tired of hearing the quarterback purgatory narrative. It's like it's really honestly one of the laziest narratives I've ever heard. It's like they do no research whatsoever. If you want a quarterback, you have the assets on draft day to trade up to the next 2 drafts. You can go trade up and grab your quarterback. It's that simple. Teams do it all the time. So yeah, but it's interesting when you look at the different rebuilds. You look at the Jags, and they got the right coach and the right quarterback, and they beat the Chargers on Wild Card Weekend, and they're looking forward to I think they play the Chiefs this week. And then the Giants, they beat the Vikings. They look like a really competent team. They've invested in Daniel Jones. They've seen him develop and continue to develop and progress, and he looks like a above average quarterback at this time. Surround him with some weapons. Who knows what he actually becomes? But props to the Giants for sticking with the developmental plan, sticking with Daniel Jones. It's much easier to develop a quarterback from a franchise perspective than it is to give up on said quarterback and go back to the well and grab another one and hope that that's him. So props to the Giants for being able to do something like that. But yeah, that's really about it. Lots of interviews lined up this week. Should be a pretty good week for Texans news. I'm excited to kind of hear some more news that comes out. So where I stand to recap, I'm not trading 12 for Payton. I'll trade next year's Browns pick, or I'll potentially trade the 33rd pick overall So the second pick in the second round this year. But that's about as far as I'm going for Sean Payton. I will always question, his desire to coach, or is it really just his desire to make, 15 to 20 million a year? Hopefully they trade back at 2. That's my guess. I'm expecting that to be the case, but we'll have to see how things go. With that being said, moving forward, what we're going to do is I've had my producer tell me we should probably go Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the mornings. Not every day. It's going to be hard to have content every day. So that makes total sense. I know Landry Locker does it, but that's Landry. I have too many other things in life going on to be able to do that. But I plan to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If I have a wild hair up my ass, maybe I'll come through on a Tuesday or a Thursday morning. But this is going to be a continuous thing. I will be here at least 3 times a week. If you guys have any questions, make sure you guys put them in the chat. Hit the like and subscribe button. Tell a friend about Texans Unfiltered YouTube. Tell them about Texans Unfiltered podcast. And make sure you guys go. I'm not on Twitter anymore, but you can follow me on Twitter. I'll eventually be back right before the draft. But yeah, and with that being said, I'm going to sign off for Texans Unfiltered. I'm YoungAriGold. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, and I hope you guys have a great week.